We are following some breaking news, one that involves a surprising move, even by North Korean standards. The U.S. was billed $2 million for the medical care of Otto Warmbier. This was a bill that was received from North Korea. North Korea insisted the U.S. pay it before they would release him. This is according to a source close to the matter. In 2016, the North Korean government sentenced Otto Warmbier, an American student, to 15 years of hard labor. And when Warmbier was eventually returned to the U.S., he was comatose. He was in a vegetative state, and he died only days later. CNN Global Affairs analyst Joseph Yoon is with us. He was on that trip to bring Warmbier back home. He's a former U.S. Special Representative for North Korea policy. And I'm also joined by CNN national security reporter Kylie Atwood. You have been working this story. What can you tell us?
Brianna, this is a stunning report. As you will recall, in June of 2017, Otto Warmbier came back to the United States and he died days later. So now we are learning about how the North Koreans approach these negotiations. They shocked the Americans by handing U.S. Special Representative Joe Yoon, who was on that trip to get Otto back to the U.S., a bill of $2 million. That is a hefty, hefty bill for getting an American who had been wrongly detained in North Korea, a 22-year-old. He'd been there for over a year, back to the United States. And so what I'm learning from my sources is that Ambassador Yoon then called Washington. He called then Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and said, "What do I do here?" Tillerson then had a conversation with the president, and President Trump essentially said, do whatever you need to do to get Otto Warmbier back to the United States. And that's when Ambassador Joe Yoon then signed an agreement that the U.S. would pay this $2 million. However, I am told that the U.S. has not yet paid that, and that as the U.S. and North Korean negotiations have continued, the bill has not been brought up by the North Koreans in the Singapore summit or in the recent Hanoi summit.
All right, Joe, at the risk of knowing, I think, what you're going to say here, can you confirm that this happened?
Well, Brianna, I mean, you know perfectly well, as does Kylie, I simply cannot get into details of confirming or denying any diplomatic exchange I was part of. But Brianna, what I can tell you is that this was one of the most moving and difficult experiences of my diplomatic life. I did go and get Otto Warmbier. That was in June 2017. Yes, he was indeed in coma. He was completely no activity on brain. And bringing him back and reuniting him with his parents, Fred and Cindy, that was very, very moving and difficult assignment. And of course, very unfortunately, Otto never recovered. He died only 6 days later. I did go to his funeral, and he was an outstanding young man. You know, a student in UVA, very bright, very adventurous, which is why he went to North Korea. And he, you know, by all accounts, he was just a regular sightseeing, curious tourist. So I still don't know.
I just want to say we're in this odd situation where we are reporting this story out, and it is about you. I understand you cannot confirm nor deny that this bill was received, a $2 million bill from North Korea for Otto Warmbier's care that the U.S. pledged to pay. But can you speak broadly to what your orders were when you went in? Were your orders to do whatever it took to get Otto Warmbier back?
Yes, my orders were completely do whatever you can to get Otto back. And I did work very closely with Secretary Tillerson, and I was in regular communications with him, yes.
Would it be unusual to pledge to pay a bill, which obviously many observers would say is just a veiled payoff to North Korea or another rogue nation to receive someone who's an American in their custody?
It is my understanding that in previous instances that there was some exchange of money, which was justified on the basis of hospital costs. So I know that in previous prisoner releases, there was some money handed over, yes.
So when you say that your broad orders going into this were to bring Otto Warmbier home, do whatever you needed to do that. Was your understanding that that was coming straight from President Trump?
That was my understanding, yes. Mm-hmm.
If there had not been in past case, let's talk about past cases. If in past cases there is not an agreement to pay a bill like this, is that the end of negotiations?
I think pretty much that is the case. I think in the past cases, certainly, I think there was some expectation they may raise, North Koreans might raise the hospital costs. And in some instances, I think some money could have been handed over. That's my understanding. And I think that's also been, documented by some folks.
But you will see pushback on that. I mean, $2 million for about a year and a half that he was in North Korea, and he came back dead. So to pay for that
he came back brain dead.
Brain dead.
And died
a few days later.
It's pretty stunning.
It's scary. I mean, and the leverage that the North Koreans have here, but they haven't used it yet.
There was an interest North Korea had in getting Otto Warmbier in that condition back to the U.S. And yet this bill was still presented.
Right. It was a first step in trying to warm negotiations between the U.S. and North Korea under President Trump. But we have seen Trump say different things about what Kim Jong-un, the leader of North Korea, knew about Otto Warmbier, and if he knew or not. Just, in Hanoi, he said that he didn't think Kim Jong-un was aware of how Otto Warmbier was treated, which was a staunch change in his position from previously.
Yep, very good point. Kylie Atwood, Joe Yoon, thank you so much.